All right, guys, coming to you with the latest update on the Katy Gallagher saga, Senator Katy Gallagher. Of course, if you've been following this story, you would know this is the Labour senator, the current finance minister, who has found herself in a bit of a scandal and in terms of the question of whether she misled Parliament or not. Now, my opinion on this, and many other people who have watched these tapes and recordings, is that, of course, she did mislead Parliament. It's very obvious. And, today, the outcome of all of this is the fact that she's had to go into Parliament and explain herself. And to no one's surprise, of course, she's come out and flat out denied misleading Parliament, even though there's so much evidence and so much vision of her doing this. And to add icing on the top, our friend Albanese, the Prime Minister, Albo, he's of course gone and called everyone a conspiracy theorist, right? That's right. According to Albanese, if you believe this story, if you give this story any credibility, you are most likely a conspiracy theorist, okay? He said this is in the Australian. Anthony Albanese and senior Labour ministers are standing by Senator Gallaghers, with the Prime Minister accusing coalition MPs of having concocted a bizarre conspiracy theory about the Higgins matter. So we have seen this before, of course, over the last few years. Whenever the public catches on to anything the government or some of these corporations are up to, and we point out something that looks very fishy, and potentially there's another side of this story, or potentially there's a different type of truth that's more obvious, of course, you are now a conspiracy theorist, and Albanese and the Labour government are trying the same tactic right now as well to defend Senator Gallagher. And of course, that's to throw off the scent. That's to make ordinary people who are looking at this vision, which is almost undeniable, right? Almost undeniable that when you look at this vision and you hear these words, what they're saying, that they're misleading Parliament, they're trying to tell you that if you hear those words and you believe that it's misleading Parliament as your own ears hear it and your own eyes see it, that you are in fact a conspiracy theorist. But anyway, forget about Albo and he's deflecting, and we'll come back to that actually, all the Labour Party and the Teals and all these people getting together to deflect this issue and obviously distract people from the serious questions that need to be answered regarding what Katy Gallagher knew and what the Labour Party knew and what the media's involvement in this was. There's so many different questions that need answers. Of course, they're deflecting. But let's have a look at what Katy Gallagher said today in Parliament, and I've got a few snippets and highlights. This went on for a little bit, so I haven't got everything, so I've just kind of narrowed it down to about 2 minutes. Let's have a listen.
Over the past week, coalition members, including those at the centre of the rape allegations, have been alleging that I have misled the Senate over comments I made almost 2 years ago. I reject those allegations. I take my responsibilities to this place as a senator very seriously, and I have always conducted myself with the highest levels of integrity. And I always will. I did not mislead the Senate. At Senate estimates on the June the 4th, 2021, the then Minister for Defence, Senator Reynolds, said, "I know where this started." She went on to say, "I was told by one of your senators 2 weeks before about what you were intending to do with the story in my office, 2 weeks before." I was shocked at the assertion made by Senator Reynolds, with the clear implication that I was responsible or had some involvement with making that story public. That was not true. It was never true, and I responded to that allegation by saying no one had any knowledge. I was provided with information in the days before the allegations were first reported, and I did nothing with that information, absolutely nothing. I was asked to keep it to myself, and I did. I did nothing differently on this occasion compared to hundreds of other times that people have reached out to me in my time as a politician and asked me to keep their information private, including women seeking support over alleged sexual assaults, violence and harassment. Being available and trusted by our constituents is fundamental to the jobs we do on behalf of them. I was not involved in any way with the story that went to air on the night or was reported online that morning. I was in no way involved with the timing in which this story was published or aired. Any allegation or assertion that I did is wrong, and I reject it in the strongest possible terms.
Yes, well, I mean, there's a bit of a problem here, right? So she's rejecting everything, she's denying everything, and she has her own version of events. Now, the problem here is, of course, that we don't have to listen to her version of events. It's very clear that the public can also make up their mind on this issue, and this is going to be an issue that's going to haunt her if she doesn't resign or if there's no sort of repercussions for her. This is always going to be with her, right? Because always we can determine in terms of the public watching this and seeing those statements in the Senate estimates where she said that nobody knew about this beforehand. And now she's come out there in Parliament, right, saying that, I thought she was talking about, 2 weeks ago that we were weaponizing this, and that's why I was shocked and I said no one knew anything. When the truth is, in fact, that I knew something about it not 2 weeks ago, just a few days before it went on television, right? That's what she's saying, and we're meant to believe that this version of events means that she did not mislead the Parliament. Okay, so it's all down to interpretation at the end of the day. Okay, but it's very obvious that if you look at this without, trying to get into the mind of Katy Gallagher and all this stuff, if you look at this from a dry and cut issue, it's a cut and dry issue in terms of the words that were said and the implications of her saying those words, which in turn misled Parliament. And when she's coming out here doing these denials and making these same type of claims about, when she knew something and her the what was in her mind and all this kind of stuff, and even from the fact that she was asked multiple more questions about this in the Senate today, and a lot of those statements, it could potentially be said she's misleading the Parliament once again. Now, again, these are just my opinions, and I'm going to keep these opinions. I don't think I'm going to change. She hasn't changed my mind, is what I'm trying to say. And I don't think she's changed many people's minds who would have actually seen that and looked at that video very objectively and very fairly and just looked at it for what it is, word to word. Okay, whether you're Labour, Liberal, whatever you are, undecided, it doesn't matter. Word for word, what she said was misleading Parliament, and this is just her version of events, right? And, like I said, there was a lot of debate today around this issue, and a lot of questions were put to her, in fact, around, did Penny Wong know? Did Tanya Plibersek know? Who did you tell? And again, she did say no, but again, it was very evasive in the way that she was responding, saying refer to the statement. She was stumbling a little bit. Like, I'm not going to play all that because there was so much footage there. I'm sure a lot of other outlets will cover that. She was stumbling and she was struggling, and I think there's more there, and that's why she's a bit nervous when it comes to this topic. Think about it, right? This person here wants you to believe, right? Katy Gallagher wants you to believe that David Shiraz, Brittany Higgins' partner, came to her with this story a few days beforehand, just a few days beforehand, gave her the transcript of the project interview that would later air on TV, right? Gave her the transcript of this, and her what she did with that was she kept it to herself, completely to herself. Right? She didn't do anything with it. She keeps saying, I didn't do anything with this. I was given this explosive interview about a rape allegation that happened, according to their own words, just a few doors down from the Prime Minister. Right? This explosive story that she was given with the full, I'm guessing, the full transcript of the project interview from just the messages that we've seen. She was given all this stuff and she's like, I just did nothing with it. I kept it to myself. All right. She didn't do anything almost, right? And, she's saying, oh, a lot of people come to me with this stuff and I just keep it to myself. And this is kind of what I do. It's my job. Really? Like, people, why is that David Shiraz guy coming to her with this story? If it's going to air on the TV anyway, and she's going to find out a exact same thing from the television, why does she need to read the project transcript, right? Why do they need this information beforehand, right? Of course, it's to prepare. I mean, again, my opinion, but you see what I'm saying here, right? These people are preparing, they're getting ready for stuff because Katy Gallagher was instrumental in smashing the government with questions about this as soon as that interview dropped, right? Not soon after that, they were going hard on this against the Morrison government at that time. So just this whole idea that she just kind of got this thing from some guy and, she kept it to herself and, there was nothing untoward that happened and stuff, that's her word. Everyone just trust what I'm saying. Don't look into this any further. Nonsense. I think there's more here, and inquisitive minds would want to know what actually went on with this, because now she's doubled down on this, right? She's doubled down on the fact of what she's been up to, in my opinion. And, she's potentially misled the parliament now multiple times. I'm not sure what the repercussions are in her making this statement, and if it's the same as in the Senate estimates. But this is what these people are doing. So, definitely, I think people need to keep on this story, and there might be more leaks, right? There might be more leaks. These leaks have not stopped. These recordings have not stopped. And the fact that she's come out now and said these very particular statements, they might be tested in the future with other text messages or other videos or other audio recordings related to this issue. They don't know this. They're not 100% sure on this either. They think they're safe, right? But this could turn out really bad for the fact that they've gone with these denials. Now, I don't know what the repercussions for this will be, and I don't know how far the Liberal Party will push this, because we've already seen people like some of the crossbench senators and stuff like this, Jackie Lambie and all these kind of people. They're already like, oh, I don't want this in the parliament. I don't want to deal with this issue. So I don't know if they have the support to actually push things forward with this. But the Albanese government, we've also seen, has been very adamant in defending Katy Gallagher. They've been very adamant on defending Katy Gallagher, and of course, to no surprise, the Teals, the de facto Labor shills that benefited a lot from the what happened with a lot of the issues around this in the last election cycle. They're of course coming on side in terms of supporting the Labor government and trying to deflect this issue into something else, right? So this is Sally Steggall, MP. And this is the question that she had in relation to this during Parliament House today. Let's have a listen.
Give the call to the member for Warringah.
Thank you. To the Attorney-General, media publication of leaked private material produced for a police investigation undermines trust and confidence in the criminal justice system for victims. Both the Privacy Act Review and the Australian Law Reform Commission have each recommended strengthening the privacy standards that media organisations should consider prior to publication. What steps is the government taking to review the exception to the Privacy Act for journalism, as journalists have an inadequate, self-regulated code of ethics, and Australia does not have a statutory tort for the breach of privacy?
Yeah, I mean, look, these are MPs that were running on transparency and integrity, and how we need accountability for things that governments do. Now, all of a sudden, they've faced with an issue where transparency and accountability is the topic of discussion, right? Whether or not this MP misled the parliament, it's a question of integrity. Even Albanese ran on these things about, adults are in charge, there's integrity and transparency, accountability. But here, the first opportunity that these Teals have to actually test some of these things in terms of what we expect from our politicians, in terms of their integrity, honesty, and transparency, what does she do? She turns it around and she attacks, right? She attacks the media who are exposing some of these, questionable things which are happening in Canberra, right? It's that's what it is. This is questionable things which are happening in Canberra that the public has been made aware of. Of course, it comes on the back of a issue to do with a rape allegation and a trial in a very public matter, mind you, right? This is a very public matter. These people are talking as if the newspapers are willy-nilly always publishing private text messages from rape trials and things like this. It doesn't happen. Like, look at from in your general experience of reading the news. When do you see these type of recordings or private messages and things like this? It very rarely happens in the media when it's related to a case like this. In particular, if it doesn't actually become an issue of public interest. This issue with Brittany Higgins and everything that happened, this was politicized, weaponized before or after the fact. Who cares? Definitely after the fact. This was like dynamite in terms of what it did in that Parliament House and the conversations that it led to. And we have seen from Brittany Higgins and David Shiraz's, Lisa Wilkinson, the producer, and Katy Gallagher's, all their messages and texts back and forth to each other. They themselves were really, really aware and attuned to the fact that this was a very political issue. They wanted this to be political. They wanted a political outcome from this as well. We have, seen so many people that have been exposed now in terms of their links to this that were political operatives, right? That are involved in crafting certain tactics and narratives around this. So this whole thing was so political, and then just to turn around now and be like, actually, now that this side of it's been exposed by the media, and we're still talking about the same issue, but we're just seeing a different side of it now. The other side that the public didn't see, no, that's a no-no. We can't see that stuff, right? The public needs to be in the dark about those things, right? And I say this a lot now. There's almost 3 million reasons why the public needs accountability on this issue, right? Almost 3 million reasons. And that 3 million reasons is because we're hearing about this payout to Brittany Higgins, which is almost, a few million apparently, I'm not sure the exact figure, because even that's in the dark, right? So money was exchanged. These people, Katy Gallagher, all these people were involved. Their departments were involved. We've seen these text messages. We've seen these recordings. This is a public interest issue, and it goes to the heart. It goes to the heart of integrity and transparency in Canberra. And these fake Teals, these dodgy politicians like Salia Steggall MP, with these silly statements attacking the media now for doing their job, right? Attacking the media for doing their job and exposing the nonsense that goes on in Canberra just goes to show you how full of crap they are as well. So if I read her statement here, I'll just read a little bit of it. Over the last week, a story surrounding the alleged assault of a parliamentary staffer has leapt to the top of the news cycle following the leaking of confidential information provided as part of a police investigation. The media should not have leave pass on people's right to privacy. The Harmon principle, which affirms court-provided documents should solely be utilized within court proceedings and for no other purpose, should have immediately raised red flags. Media publications of leaked private material produced for a police investigation undermines trust and confidence in the criminal justice system for victims. This is not in the public interest. Actually, in general, I understand parts of that argument. Like, you wouldn't want to go to the police and your text messages or whatever you give in something related to a sexual assault allegation is just made public, right? But again, like I said, that doesn't happen. Like, what these people are talking about is something that doesn't happen in general. The reason it's happened in this case, of course, is because it's a public interest matter. Think about it. If all this, dodgy, underhanded, conspiratorial things are happening, and the police had all this evidence, right, and no one ever found out, and all these things that happened, money had been exchanged, and all these things that happened. I'm not saying exactly that's what happened. I'm just saying, just imagine. And we never had the information and we never found out. But thanks to this whistleblower, whoever it is, or whatever it is, however this information got to the media, right? Now it's in the media's hands. And then the media can look at this now and see, okay, is this a public interest matter? And I'm very confident that the people in the media that have looked at this and have gone, this is a public interest matter. I mean, it's very obvious it's public interest. Everyone's interested in it, right? Everyone's talking about it. And whether we should not talk about it or not, remember, when you look at Brittany Higgins and David Shiraz's messages to each other and with Lisa Wilkinson, they were very much cognizant of the fact that this would be a public interest issue, and a lot of this would be debated and decided in the public forum as well, right? We're talking about privacy today. These people are talking about privacy. What about the privacy of the accused during that time, right? The privacy of Brittany Higgins during that time? That was all out on display for the public to see and hear, okay? And we weren't privy to some of these stuff that happened in the court and all of that, even after we had to endure in terms of being subject to that and making decisions based on that, which is, again, part of the strategic planning of David Shiraz and Brittany Higgins. It's in their messages. I mean, I'm confident to say that they were strategically aware of the impact that they would have by getting this in front of politicians and making a public issue. So, they were aware of all this. So what about the privacy of people during that time? And what about the way that it potentially prejudiced the case, which we know that it potentially, of course, it most likely 100% did prejudice the actual case itself, and maybe led to an outcome where justice wasn't served for anyone, right? This is a problem from Canberra. And if anything, they need to get on top of people, potentially like Katy Gallagher, the Labor Party, weaponizing these type of things. Again, I'm making an allegation here because we don't have the complete picture of what they did. But the look of it, okay, it definitely looks like that this could have potentially happened. Anyway, so that's one of the teals. You can see their teal colors here. This is what this is what they're doing for their constituents. And we got another teal here, Zoe Daniel MP, carrying water for the Labor Party, and she's posting here Tanya Plibersek today in Parliament House. So Tanya Plibersek's also been asked very direct questions in terms of her knowledge. Did she know about this beforehand? Did she know about this from Katy Gallagher? And again, very evasive. They don't directly answer these questions, which, as an observer, all right, as a member of the public, I'm telling people, if you kind of start paying attention to this, when they start becoming evasive and when they start not answering very basic, simple questions, there is more there. And the more part might not be incriminating, but there's more there that they've decided to keep quiet from the people because now they've dug themselves in, right? They've dug in on this issue and they're sticking to a particular position. But they don't know. They don't know if there'll be more leaks. They don't know if there'll be more messages, more recordings. So who knows, right? There could be more on this issue. But the way that they're deflecting this story for now, and they were always going to do this, but the way they're deflecting this is, of course, like this.
Can I take us back to the issue at hand here once again? Is it any wonder, Mr. Speaker, that only 13% of sexual assaults in this country are reported to police when we see what has been happening in the media this week with SMS messages leaked to the media, with private conversations taped and leaked to the media?
Remind the chamber how triggering this conversation is for the woman involved, the staff in this building, and the women around Australia who are victims of sexual assault. And also remind the chamber that we have young people in the gallery listening to this behaviour.
Yeah, so this is the game that they're playing, right? You can't talk about this because you're going to re-victimize people, you're going to trigger people, you can't talk about this, let's just forget about this issue because, how dare you kind of bring this up, and what about all these type of issues, right? And again, it's a very fine line, right? Because this whole thing has been prosecuted in public. I keep going back to that. This has been prosecuted in public, and they had no problem with making all these kind of things public. Like that was actually championed as something that they had to do. So now, when the shoe's on the other foot, now all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, privacy. You don't want to traumatize people. You don't want to jeopardize people's mental health, right? This is a game that they're playing now. And, again, you just need to look at Brittany Higgins' own text messages and audio recordings with Lisa Wilkinson to know that these people, right, they were very aware of the fact that this would be prosecuted in the public square, even around issues to do with, women in terms of sexual assault and these kind of issues, right? In this exchange from that recording, Lisa Wilkinson says to Brittany Higgins, because also, the words that are swirling around in your head as a Liberal Party staffer at that point in time was that the Liberal Party's got a women problem, to which Lisa Wilkinson then also says, be the cherry on top of the women problem cake. And Brittany Higgins says, yeah, I know. All right, so be the cherry on top of the women's problem cake. I mean, that statement is a political statement. Being a problem on top of the women problem cake, the cherry on top. They are aware very, very directly, like it's plain as day, okay, that they're aware of the political implications of taking this public via the media and then to the parliament itself. Then to turn around and then say that when the shoe's on the other foot and when these things are being prosecuted in public now in terms of accountability and transparency for the involvement of politicians in potentially weaponizing all of this, to then turn around and be like, hey, you can't do this anymore, I call nonsense, right? These people think we're fools, right? They think there's just complete, utter rubbish. If anything, the public deserves a hell of a lot of answers now. And we know, right, Albo, that it's no conspiracy. We've been tricked before with this conspiracy word, and we know what it's all about now. A lot of people have woken up to this, and I don't think this issue just goes away now with these denials. I think we're going to see more information come out on this, and there's going to be more hard questions here for Katy Gallagher, the Labor government, and all involved, right? Even that loony Lisa Wilkinson. We're going to see more loony stuff from her potentially. So I'm looking forward to that. That's the Lisa Wilkinson part in all of this is kind of like the comic relief, the entertainment, because out of nowhere the media will publish something where she's just said some out of field crazy statement, whether it's like, racially tinged derogatory statements towards an Indigenous senator, or whether it's, things about cherries on top. Lisa Wilkinson has also a lot to answer for as well. So I don't know what she's going to be in terms of her public statements to this. I can imagine they're crafting something and they got Pirate Pete there coming out with some publicists or something and really workshopping this in terms of how to rejuvenate their image and resurrect themselves, because they're not looking very good in all of this anyway. Anyway, guys, I've gone on for a bit there. If you're enjoying my videos, please, you can follow me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Rumble, and Odyssey at The Real Rukshan. Thanks, guys. See you next time.